Good morning, everyone. Huge turnout. Great to see so many people here, and it's certainly been a key theme of us doing bigger and better with everything we're doing with recycling and ecologiQ and this conference. So welcome. In the spirit of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we're meeting today, the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Warumjika, welcome. So on behalf of Major Transport Infrastructure Authority, we're very proud to be here to welcome you to the 2023 Greener Infrastructure Conference. As I said, last year's conference was a big step, bringing a lot of people together and a lot of conversations and a lot of connections started. So we're hoping to expand on that this year, and with the attendance and the number of exhibitors. I think we've got over 60 exhibitors this year. It's really tremendous to see all the hard work that the teams are putting together and the industry and sector is doing to come together and share knowledge and create connection and drive that collaboration. So I do encourage you to, last year I think we took some lessons learned out of what we were doing last year. Make sure you do get into that trade hall and talk to the people on the stalls, create the conversations, share what you're up to, share your ideas, and really engage and create connection. So I can't overstate the importance of this event, because as an industry we need action and we need to each play our role to get there. As I will touch on, there is much progress on many fronts, but as industry we need to continue to shift our mindset and strive to do more. We need to do more with less and find smarter ways of building this infrastructure. We all know the economic climate is shifting again. Pressures on and fiscal constraints are going to drive even more pressure on some of our decision making. But that's an opportunity to drive that creativity and innovation that I think in times of not necessarily crisis, but we've seen through COVID what can change, what if we focus and the need and clarity is there on the opportunities. So we're facing some interesting times ahead. Don't ask me about Commonwealth reviews and other things about infrastructure pipelines at the moment, but we're here, I know, to drive what is a huge, still over $100 billion worth of infrastructure investment in transport and many other sectors, not just transport, whether it be housing, health, energy, hospitals, schools. Infrastructure and how we use recycled materials is going to be a key part of driving a more efficient and effective industry. So I'd like to, MTI acknowledges the huge role we have here in moving the conversation from action. And I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people about policies. I was talking to, and it hopefully be good to hear from the Commonwealth through this, because a lot of people set policy. And I talk about how do you move policy through a valley of death from that good idea to implementation, and how do you drive that action on the ground. So hopefully what I'm going to articulate and just overview today is how we're driving that action. And we're driving that action, in my mind, and I have, sorry Alexis, I have modified some of the pillars, but for me there's five key pillars that drive action, and I'll touch on each of those as we go. So for me, it's set the targets. All good, as good project managers, we have to set the targets, set the goal, be striving for something, and then measure our success and how we're going. Curate a body of knowledge, and that's about creating the conversations, create the connections. It's why we've set up ecologiQ to begin with. It's about creating that portal and front door. If you don't know Frank DeSantis, who's Director ecologiQ, and Alexis Davison, make sure you know them by the end of this conference, because they're the gatekeepers to a whole world of knowledge and information. We're trying to create an easy, accessible way to build those industry partnerships. 3, we've mentioned, you've seen collaboration, and I'll touch on that in more what I think that word means. 4th pillar, technical leadership. And the 5th is innovation, but it's more than, or how I define innovation is actually being clear on what the problem is, or the opportunity is, and what steps you're taking to be clear about how to go about solving that problem. So in the spirit of some of that storytelling, which is the key for the flow of knowledge, I thought I will be touching on through today some of the examples. But if I just start with pillar number 1, targets. So ecologiQ has created a demand model, and from that data and from the project assessments, we know that we've taken up roughly 2 out of every 3 opportunities that have been presented to the teams to use recycled or reused materials in 2022. Maybe you can debate about some of the exact nature of that statement, but as I think the video at the start stole my thunder, that we've set a commitment around 3.5 million tonnes of recycled materials. We've achieved 2.5 million tonnes implemented on our projects to date. That's and in recent times, we've gone from about 35% to about 70% achievement on that target. So again, it's that being clear when we set the targets, when we're clear on our actions, we're driving towards something that can grow that sector. So recycling first is now embedded in our procurement processes. It's how we embed those targets, and the learnings from each completed project can be shared, replicated and improved. From the mega projects to the high number of suburban and regional road and rail upgrade projects across the board. We've got over 200 projects in delivery in the pipeline and more than 100 billion invested in the big build. So we've got an unprecedented opportunity at our fingertips to increase even further the use of recycled materials, and I think we talked about pushing that towards that 15 million mark. Some of you will have heard me speak before, and I talk a lot about moving this sector, the civil engineering sector that builds a lot of the transport projects, to more of a manufacturing mindset. And I know there's a lot of people here that we engage with in terms of recycling that have greater skills in that manufacturing mindset. So we want to build that manufacturing mindset into it, standardising what we do, being clear, and having that knowledge centrally located, driving continuous improvement in standard processes that we adopt, is really how I see we're going to drive that efficiency and drive those sustainability outcomes through the delivery of these infrastructure projects. So whether it's park benches, bollards, roadside barriers, if all our projects have a consistent approach to these items, then there's a clear opportunity for manufacturers to develop something that makes sense from both a cost and sustainability point of view. So, and finally, we know from last year's conference that we directly increased the amount of reused materials on our projects in the last 12 months off the back of that conference, about people making those connections. So if I could start with the next pillar with a bit of an example on our Sunbury Road upgrade project. So it's a great example of the shift in mindset happening on our projects. When completed, the project will have produced about the following outcomes: 30 different uses of recycled or reused materials, which equates in that project alone to 500,000 tonnes of recycled materials and 40% recycled asphalt. And the project is committed to installing 4 kilometres of recycled pipe, drainage pipe. So what's really important is every innovation can now be harnessed and shared with other teams for future projects. It's that body of knowledge and curating that knowledge, both through ecologiQ and what we do in other areas across the Big Build program. Through the level crossing removal program, its delivery extranet is the central portal for information about what's the gold standard or benchmark across a number of disciplines, including recycled materials, recycled use materials trackers. And what we're trying to do is you have to identify when a key decision maker, how you present them with the information at that moment in time when they're about to make that decision on what am I going to use? Am I going to use the recycled product, or am I going to just specify or design or purchase or install something else? We want to have that information accessible and at that person's fingertips in the moment when they're about to make that decision. And projects move quickly, so we've spent a lot of time focusing on how we curate that body of knowledge, how we make that central portal, how we identify what is the gold standard, and how we drive that when someone, a project implements a good practice and a good outcome, how we make that BAU on the next series of projects and programs, and how those teams continue to build and not move back down the hill, but drive that continuous focus on making BAU the outcomes that we've achieved. Again, linking back to what a manufacturing sector does. So a couple of other examples that highlight the recycled first policy and how we're turning the conversation from why not, to how. So I want to just probably move to sort of the third pillar now around collaboration. And again, a lot of you will know in interacting with MTIA that collaboration is at the heart of what we do at MTIA. Whether it's our PPPs, our D&C, our alliances, program alliances, MRPV's program delivery approach, across the MTI we've developed a clear mindset of being an active client, working with our partners to explore new opportunities, whether it be safety, sustainability, productivity, efficiencies, disruption, urban design, you name it. Our focus is on working together and collaboratively to drive those exceptional outcomes. And this shift can't be underestimated in creating industry-wide change. I think even the conference itself is a prime example of where we're bringing together different sectors of the industry to really talk, highlight those opportunities and drive what's possible. But beyond the conference, there are many important initiatives introduced by the ecologiQ team and our project officers to promote collaboration. From roundtables, workshops, industry presentations, we need to continue to shift perceptions and ensure all sections of the industry understand the urgency in finding new and better solutions. So one of the great initiatives that has been implemented is a pitchathon. I think I'm not allowed to use Shark Tank. Apparently that's copyrighted. But in driving that sort of products, so for products such as recovered carbon black, which brings me to the slide here, which has been trialled on our Pound Road West upgrade, along with several new specifications, have had their origins in these pitchathon sessions. So representatives from DTP, MRPV and other relevant experts come together to hear pitches from suppliers on recycled products. And tomorrow afternoon you'll get an opportunity to look at one of those processes in action when we run a live session in the Trades Hall. But you can expect more of these opportunities in the future, with innovation, a clear focus on the big build, and a clear message that we received from last year's conference about how the market and how the industry gains that exposure, gets the opportunity to present their great ideas to the people who are making key decisions. Another example, and I'll move to sort of technical leadership now as the fourth pillar. So we all know getting a specification change is just the start, and further, not an easy start, and a further collaboration is needed to see new products introduced to our projects. So the image on the screen is that of a curb separators on the St Kilda Road bike lanes. The separators, custom fabricated by Orca Civil Product, comprise up to 80% glass recycled, diverted from landfill, as well as 10% calcium carbonate. So this product was a result of ACE Infrastructure and MRPV coming together to test a product on Childs Road and then install on St Kilda Road, even managing to construct them with all the heritage requirements that go with operating in St Kilda Road. And so without that collaboration, that level of persistence, the product doesn't exist. And I know, again, we heard from last year's conference, specification change, type approvals was a key barrier that industry was seeing in how do we reuse recycled product. So we focused very heavily. I know the three engineering teams never enjoy when I call them in for a meeting because I've always got another idea or something that I'm cranky about that needs change in a technical front. But our three engineering teams are very focused now on driving that change, driving the operators, asset owners to understand the balance and on all the competing priorities that we face. So we've created in ecologic or even our broader R&D Hive initiative, we're driving that change. We've set up, and I think since the last conference, working with DTP, MTI, we've also set up a rail standards task force, a purpose-built task force trying to focus on modernising, contemporising some of those, as many people will know, the rail sector, which is even more entrenched in the way of working and needs that task force and dedicated focus to crack open and drive some of that modernisation and the opportunities, particularly around the recycled use. So it's been well documented. The recycled plastic noise walls are an example of this work in action. Created a new specification to implement plastic noise walls, and that's now a BAU a practice across our projects. So the next example, another great example, is that MRPV partnered with NTRO, previously ARB, DTP and ecologiQ to create a new technical specification to allow the use of recycled organic waste in landscaping on civil infrastructure projects. The recycled organic material can be sourced from curbside green waste, which includes food scraps, as well as general garden waste. And through that extensive industry engagement, a new specification was developed to allow the recycled organic material to be used in compost, mulch, biofiltration and soil compaction mitigation. So the picture on the screen shows Victorian business, Reground, a social enterprise as well, and we're seeing that connection a lot more too with the social enterprises adopting a recycling focus in their endeavours. And so the enterprise provides used coffee grounds for composting on the Childs Road upgrade. So this was the first time we used coffee grounds we utilised on a major infrastructure project, diverting almost 10 tonnes of food waste from landfill. And what's really pleasing is that in this process, for creating this change, this can now be replicated for other products and other high priority waste streams such as plastic and rubber for those new projects to be developed. So that technical leadership continues. We want to know if there are other frustrations. We know that can move slowly, but we've spoken a lot about escalating. It's about escalating those issues, those blockages, quickly and frequently when required to really drive action and focus by the decision makers. Turning to the fifth and final pillar, innovation and identifying the problem and being really clear about what that opportunity is and that problem statement. So with the investment in transport infrastructure, the Victorian Government has created, hopefully, an environment in which we can encourage innovation. So there are many examples of the innovative products that are now commonly used and successfully trialled on big build projects, but I wanted to use polyrock as another prime example. So the level crossing removal project, and you'll see it in the trade hall if you go and have a look later. The level crossing removal project celebrated injuries first at Mount Derrimut Road with the use of the recycled soft plastics mixed with concrete to form the roof of the new Deer Park station. So the project team made up McConnell Dow, Arup, McDonald, Metro Trains and V-Line collaborated with Built Environs, Boral and Polyrock to produce a sustainable concrete mix that was poured in February to form the base of the new station's green roof. It's estimated that it diverted about 125,000 pieces of soft plastic from landfill, and it's the first time a concrete mix containing recycled soft plastics has been adopted for a structural application. So again, a lot of work goes in behind the scenes, driving the specifications to allow that, the trialling, and now we see that permanent application in a structural sense. So the mixes are lighter, allowing more concrete per load and therefore fewer truck movements and fuel burnt overall. And the use of the material together with high cement replacement in the concrete mix has reduced the carbon footprint of the concrete by up to 40%. So going back to our demand model, it's about also understanding that data that informs the decision making that we have that links to that innovation. So we know we can create a greater understanding across industry where we have the lower hanging fruit and where the innovative products could have the most impact. Mega projects such as North East Link and Suburban Rail Loop create enormous demand. And the model indicates that we have at least need at least 15 million tonnes of materials for the big build over the next 5 years, as we indicated, the target of that 15 million. And what's clear is that we need to take every available opportunity, the big ones and the small ones, which together can have that overall impact. We also need to create an environment where suppliers are encouraged to push the boundaries and create new products. So I wanted to finish by looking at a case study to demonstrate the opportunities for innovation, both related to both high priority waste streams of plastic. So plastic is a key problem for us. Based on the data we have, we expect the volume of plastic to end up in Victorian landfills next year to be more than 500,000 tonnes. It's a staggering number, and we absolutely need to significantly reduce the use of plastic in society. From a construction point of view, we've seen positive change in the use of recycled plastic pipes, for example, and since 2020 we've taken up just over 1/4 of the available opportunities. We're now using more plastic drainage pipes in our projects than this time last year. But if we seized 100% of the opportunities that we could only use an extra 5,000 tonnes of recycled plastic from now until 2027. The cold hard truth is we still couldn't be making a dent in the amount going to landfill. So the challenge for everyone in the room to find new and better solutions for that recycled plastic. That's a clear need. That's the opportunity for action. So part of what I was, and I'm getting the hurry up, I think. So before I finish, just wanted to remind everyone here of the role we can all play. If every individual, whether you're a supplier, sustainability expert, construction leader, researcher, council representative, if you can leave here with one new product or use one new idea or even just a new mindset, that the impact will be enormous. I'd personally like to thank the ecologiQ team, and particularly Alexis Davison, for putting together the conference, bringing everyone together. It's a hard task. It's nerve-wracking whether everyone's going to turn up on the day. I know Alexis has been a bit worried about that, so I appreciate you coming along. But I think that shows the level of support and level of focus that we have across our sector to drive change across for the benefit of the communities that we all work in. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the next 2 days. Ta.
You happy to take some questions?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much, Kevin. And certainly I'd encourage you to jump on Slido if you've got any questions for Kevin. I guess one of the things that I'd love to hear from you, Kevin, and I don't know how you guys are pulling it all together through ecologiQ and the bigger system that you've set up. I think as people kind of use the words, you need to have systems thinking. And you've certainly indicated that it is possible. At a complex level, we're talking about, millions of tons of material that has to be converted into various products. So there's obviously, as you've indicated, that innovation, the knowledge foundation, and you capture that knowledge. And of course, fantastic to be able to see that curation of knowledge taking place. But as everybody will often ask, well, okay, it's one thing to have knowledge, but now you're talking about how you're going to translate that into practical outcomes. How do you see, I guess, the world moving in that direction? What have you seen and learned from your experience here in Victoria that you feel that it could be something that others could perhaps share and learn from your experience?
I think one of the, and it's a foundation stone for a lot of what we're driving through the MTIA, and that's that the procurement models that we use, the partnership models that we're moving towards, and again, some of you will heard me speak about, rather than, I hate the word project. I've contemplated banning the word project, which is unusual for a project delivery agency. But for me, it's about those programs of work and time-bound contracting. So I want to create partnerships with industry. You don't see Samsung or Apple engaging with their supply chain through lower sum one-off tenders for every single element, every single time they need something. They enter into time-bound relationships that drive performance, and when the performance and outcomes are mutually beneficial to both parties, that partnership continues. So we've worked a lot to move to programs of work and models that allow our teams to have continuity. So I hate the stop-start nature of projects where teams come together and disband, and you lose all knowledge. It creates that sawtooth and everyone goes back down the learning curve, and you just lose all that knowledge that and great initiatives, and whether it be recycle or safety or other elements of what we're building, that knowledge goes back down the learning curve. So a foundation stone, what I'd be saying to others is you do need that commercial relationship underpinnings to drive these programs of work that can build on as each team does something, takes that lessons, they take it to the next job, and then the next job, and then they share it with colleagues, and you share it within that broader program of works. So for me, it is getting that global procurement model right, and I think whether it be social enterprises or Aboriginal participation in our projects or female participation, all those social policies that the government's seeking have a foundation stone in how we work together. And that's why I say collaboration underpins everything we do, but it's more than collaboration, it's that partnership. It's everyone's sleeves rolled up, working together as an active client. And and the industry is conditioned to do something very different. It's used to stop-start competing projects, and so that's taken a while to change. But we're seeing the benefits of that, of people realising that there's that opportunity to build on what they've done before and have a career, build their skills. So, I think that's for us part of what we're underpinning, and we're looking to double down on that. As when we go into a fiscally constrained environment, again the temptation is to go back to hard competition on everything and have the dollar as the single bottom line. But I think if we stick to our foundations and drive that partnership approach over time and drive performance, then we're going to achieve a huge amount, I think, in recycling and reuse.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And please join with me in thanking Kevin for his incredible introduction today. Thank you, Kevin.